C, SKOL Cup 30th anniversary. An excerpt from the book From Oblivion to Hampden, Hibs Heroes of 1991. Read by me. A joyful Kilmarnock fright night. The Kilmarnock game was a difficult one. We had a nervous start, but we persevered. Alex Miller. Hibs have started this season well and will be a stiff test for Killie this evening. This could be a memorable match. Jim Fleeting. The SKOL Cup third round once again saw Hibernian drawn away from home to First Division opposition. Ayrshire would be the location and Rugby Park the venue as the Hibs travelled along the A71 to Kilmarnock on Wednesday the 28th of August 1991. It was a time in which many of Britain's cities were experiencing severe summer rioting, much of it racially motivated. In world news that week, the Beirut hostage John McCarthy had just been released after 5 years in captivity. Hibs and Kilmarnock hadn't played each other for almost 3 years, having last met at Easter Road at the same stage of the tournament in 1988. Hibs had won that tie 1-0 thanks to a Paul Kane goal. Meetings had been scarce since Killie's relegation from the Premier Division in 1983, though. Hibernian's last league season in the same division as Killie, the one that saw Killie relegated, had ended with 2 victories and 2 draws against the Ayrshire men, the most notable of those matches being on Saturday the 2nd of April 1983. Kilmarnock had taken an early lead in that match against Pat Stanton's side at Easter Road, only for the Hibs to come roaring back to annihilate them 8-1, with goals coming from McNamara, Duncan, Ray, McCurdy and a brace each from Bobby Thompson and Willie Irvin Sr. By the time 1991 arrived, Kilmarnock had never won the Scottish League Cup. Their best achievements were to lose in the final on 3 occasions, having been beaten 2-0 by Dundee in 1951-52, 2-0 by Rangers in 1960-61 and 1-0 by Hearts in 1962-63. Back in 91, Rugby Park was a very different stadium to the current one. Where there are now stands, there were mostly open terraces, some covered, some not. The stadium held around 20,000 and, like Hampden Park, was oval-shaped, complete with the extra D of grass behind each goal and even a crude running track around the edge of the pitch. However, the pitch itself was one of the best in Scotland. Kilmarnock had finished 5th in the First Division in 1990-91 and were looking to build on that. They had one of the second tier's strongest squads, boasting ex-Aberdeen and Celtic star Billy Stark, who had a habit of scoring against Hibs, and their captain was former Celtic and Scotland midfielder Tommy Burns. Thankfully, neither was available to play against Hibs. Billy Stark was injured while Tommy Burns was suspended after being red-carded in the last minute of Killie's tie at Central Park 48 hours earlier. Kilmarnock's squad also boasted a certain striker named Bobby Williamson, defender Gus McPherson, and they even had veteran former Dundee goalie Bobby Geddes, as well as a host of good youngsters, including Ali Mitchell, who had scored against Hibs for East Fife in a previous season's Scottish Cup game. They were managed by Jim Fleeting, a former Ayr United defender whom later in his career, after his spell as a player, went on to be a top coach at the SFA's Largs National Sports Centre, where he helped the likes of Jose Mourinho and Andre Villas-Boas obtain their UEFA coaching badges. Fleeting was determined that his side would go out to attack and win the game, while Miller knew that his players were in for a much sterner test than in the previous round. The lineups were Hibs: John Burridge in goal, a back four of Willie Miller, Graham Mitchell, Gordon Hunter and Neil Orr, a midfield of Murdo MacLeod, Mickey Weir, Callum Milne and Pat McGinley, and up front were Keith Wright, and Mark McGraw. On the bench were Brian Hamilton and wee Davy Fellinger. Kilmarnock's lineup was Bobby Geddes, Gus McPherson, Matt Riley, Willie McStay, Paul Flexney, Tommy Tate, Ali Mitchell, Callum Campbell, Bobby Williamson, Ian Porteous and Sean McSkimmon. On the bench they had Ross Jack and Ray Montgomery. Kelly had just secured this tie against Hibs in round 3 just 48 hours earlier, beating Cowdenbeath 1-0 at Central Park in the second round, somewhat scabbily. Because of this, fans didn't have much time to arrange their travel to Ayrshire, but a still decent crowd of just over 6,500 turned up, but it could have been more. The £1 match programme informed readers that the fixture would be refereed by Jim McCluskey. Unlike Stirling Albion, whom Hibs had beaten 3-0 in the previous round, Kilmarnock were a full-time side, so Miller's men would not enjoy the advantage of superior fitness this time. Fleeting's team went for the jugular from the off, passing and pushing forward with a composure which belied their lower league status. Kelly had the first serious attack after 6 minutes when Mitchell produced a great running cross which Gordon Hunter somehow managed to scramble clear. The Cabbage replied instantly, a clever move ending with a Keith Wright effort which produced a superb one-handed save from Bobby Geddes just a minute later. Hibernian should have taken the lead after 17 minutes when Callum Milne carved out a shooting opportunity for himself, only to blast the ball just over the crossbar. Kelly hit back, a good passing move sending Williamson through on goal. He beat Neil Orr and then he rounded John Burridge, but Neil Orr, selected in place of the injured Tommy McIntyre, somehow managed to scramble back to clear Williamson's net-bound shot off the line and out from a corner. However, from that corner, Matt Riley crossed into the box for big Callum Campbell and he powered an unstoppable header into the Hibs net to make it 1-0 to Kilmarnock. Oh no. Bobby Williamson then also went close for Kelly with an overhead kick. A year previously, such a setback in a cup tie might have seen the heads go down among the Hibs players, but not this time. The green jerseys went on to the attack, and after 36 minutes they got a deserved equaliser when a half-cleared Willie Miller cross was smashed into the net by skipper Murdo McLeod, who would later be named man of the match. In the second half, both teams went for it, as neither particularly relished the prospect of extra time, so they were both eager to bag the all-important next goal. It was end-to-end stuff, real cup tie action. The travelling Hibs support were in fine voice, while the home fans were no shrinking violets either, loudly backing their own local heroes. On 60 minutes, Keith Wright went on a superb solo run, beating 3 players and then cracking a shot past Geddes, only for the ball to come back off the inside of the post. Fortunately for Alex Miller's men, Pat McGinley, typically, had matched Wright's run from midfield with a lung-bursting charge, beating Kilmarnock's offside trap and sweeper Willie McStay to the rebound and prodding the ball into the net to make it 2-1 to the Hibs. But Kilmarnock's heads did not go down. It may have been 2-1 to Hibs, but the Ayrshire side dug in. 9 minutes later, Kilmarnock won a free kick 30 yards out. Ian Porteous rolled the ball to youngster Sean McSkimmon, who blasted an utter screamer past the helpless John Burridge to make the score 2-2 and set up what could have been an epic last 20 minutes. However, Killy's joy was short-lived. The Hibs regained the advantage just 1 minute later when a deft flick from Mickey Weir sent Keith Wright hurtling through on Geddes once more. This time, the post didn't stop Keith, who coolly and easily restored our 1-goal cushion. (3-2) to the Cabbage. Kilmarnock did their very best but couldn't hit back as Hibs were playing for each other, with teamwork, with good passing and keeping the home side at bay with solid defending. Then, with 11 minutes left, Scotland under-21 star Willie Miller was red-carded for elbowing Kilmarnock's Ali Mitchell in the face. Lady luck, it seemed, was for the Hibs that night though, as Miller's sending off coincided with many of Kilmarnock's players running out of steam. They'd been in action just 48 hours earlier and were tired, unable to take advantage of Hibs being a man down. The Hibs simply switched to one up front and compressed the game into midfield, turning the closing stages into a drab battle, save for a couple of late half chances for Kilmarnock's McSkimmon and Tate. Hibs threw on Brian Hamilton and Davy Fellinger to waste a further few minutes, while Kilmarnock had to leave 2 defenders back in the closing stages just to cover Keith Wright's menace on the break. And all of this helped Alex Miller's team to hold on to the 3-2 scoreline. It had been a true cup tie, with both sides giving their all to reach the quarter-finals, and Hibernian's team spirit had seen them through. Kilmarnock 2, Hibernian 3. Jim Fleeting heaped praise on his team after the game and didn't blame his team's supposed tiredness for the defeat. What he said was, "We had chances to bury Hibs after we went 1-0 up and we just didn't take them. You can't do that against top flight sides like Hibs and get away with it." The match had been a great advert for the SKOL League Cup and for Scottish football. The only downside for Hibs had been Willie Miller's late red card, which his manager said was stupid and could have cost us our place in the last 8. The manager added, "I'm disgusted with Willie Miller this evening. He must learn and he will be punished." Nonetheless, Hibernian were into the quarter-finals of the SKOL League Cup once more. Kilmarnock's valiant efforts hadn't been enough and their opportunity had passed. Once again, after a much stiffer test, Hibernian marched on. It was the only match of the whole cup run in which the Hibs had to come from behind. The talk on the Hibs buses back after the match was all about who we would face in the last 8. Hearts, Celtic and Rangers were all still in the tournament. As it panned out, the quarter-final draw saw Miller's men and us, the Green and White Legions, heading back to Ayrshire. The Hibs were drawn to play Ayr United at Somerset Park.